Copyrights. What are they? What do they mean? And what do they mean to you? Well, have you ever had an idea? Copyrights protect ingenuity, and they protect the fact that you were the one to come up with that idea. Have you ever searched the web to download free music, movies, or even games? All of these have copyrights that protect the authors that created them. What are copyrights, and what is copyright infringement?
Copyright protects original work by an author.
Copyright infringement is when a person perceives, reproduces, or otherwise communicates the original work without the permission of the original author. That's legalese. I think if we break it down, it just means if you misuse it without the author's permission.
How might someone commit copyright infringement?
For example, burning a disc of music. I bought a CD, so I'm going to burn it on my computer, which is relatively easy to do nowadays. Then I'm going to go to school and sell it for $5, to make some money on the side. That would be violating the copyright infringement, and I'd be doing it for some monetary gain.
Well, I think one of the very popular ways these days is remodding. When people alter the mechanisms of gaming systems. And when I started researching this type of violation, what I was surprised about is when you do a Google search, for example, I was trying to find out what remodding is, since I'd never heard of it. What you actually get is ways to do it on YouTube, how to actually violate the law instead of finding out about the law. So,
How could someone be punished?
because you could also be fined up to $250,000. You can also, of course, go to prison and all the consequences that go with having a felony conviction, not being able to vote.
And there might also be job ramifications as well. A felony would always be something you'd need to disclose when you're applying for certain types of jobs and when they ask for that information. Just so people have a sense also of the consequences of the imprisonment that we talked about is that the statute does provide up to 5 years of incarceration, depending on the circumstances of the offense. It varies a little bit, but it could be a lot of time.
Who are the victims?
That's who are the victims. I guess
Right.
the artist, I would say, is the victim.
Right.
The person who produces the art and is not compensated for it.
Right, and so the production company that is doing the research and development into creating and distributing and marketing these video games, they put a lot of money and time and effort into that front end of the product. Piracy is not a victimless crime, which goes exactly to your question, and they're trying to get out the message that there are victims to it. It might not be a person, the singular painter or something like that, but it is this industry or the production company and them not reaping all of the benefits from the work they put into developing the product.
File sharing sites offer copyrighted material. Is that legal?
Sharing.
Unless they have a copyright, they're not doing it legally. And especially the minute it's put on the internet, which of course is what we do these days. That's when the violation becomes kind of, I think, easier to detect on the one hand, but perhaps also easier to avoid detection because the sites go up and down so quickly.
Are the users of such sites at risk?
But I would imagine that the person who's purchasing a lot of music from sites that do not have the proper copyrights and are not selling them, they do run the risk of amassing such an amount of illegally copied material that they could run into civil or maybe even criminal liability for that amount. And then if they have sharing programs such as peer-to-peer, LimeWire type networks and their computer, even though they might not realize it or understand it, is sharing those files with other computers, then I believe the U.S. Attorney would say they've been distributing that music that's been illegally downloaded.
Are buyers just as bad as sellers?
I think that actually gets into sort of the ethics and morality of it. If people are out there willing to buy this illegally copied and distributed material, then there are always going to be more people doing it. So I don't know if that makes them as bad, but sort of like with our drug problems, if people didn't want drugs, then there wouldn't be so many drug traffickers and the violence that goes along with that.
I was good with technology. I liked fixing things. When times got rough, I wanted to use what I knew to help make ends meet. Of course, breaking the law or doing something illegal was not in my list of options. I always strived to live a moral and just life. When searching the internet, I found a lot of information about modding Nintendo Wii consoles. What that means is changing or altering the software of a console to read game data stored on an external hard drive. I thought I could do this to make a little money on the side. What I wasn't aware of is that the game data in the hard drives was violating the copyright laws, as it was copied from original game discs and made playable without the original author's permission. Soon after, Homeland Security found out. So they went to my home, arrested me, seized my computers, Wii, and hard drives. I couldn't believe it, but it was happening. That night, I spent in jail, where you are not seen as a good doer or someone with good morals. Rather, everyone looks at you as someone who has nothing good going for them, not a good feeling. I was allowed out on bail, and after about a year, I was sentenced for my crime. My max allowed sentence was 5 years in prison, along with a $250,000 fine. Because it was my first and expected only offense, and because my whole life before I had strived to be a good person in school, my community, and with my religious group, I was given a 3-year probation sentence along with the restrictions it implies. Also, this is a felony conviction on my record, as it was not to be taken lightly. I truly regret what I did. I could have gone to prison and spent 5 years away from my family. I'll never forget how I feared and how real the situation was.